The Great Potlatch is a role selection game designed by John Clowdus and published by his company Smallbox Games. And in case you're wondering, yes, it is a very mean trick called Smallbox Games and publish them in bags. This is what comes in the bag. You've got a deck of Potlatch cards, a deck of totem cards, 4 ancestor cards, player markers in 4 colors, a round marker with a little man to keep track of the rounds, the speaking stick marker, bad reputation markers. These are 1 bad reputation, these are 2. And the role markers, the elder, the carver, the shaman. To begin the game, each player selects a color of cubes and is dealt 5 totem cards and 2 potlatch cards. Players can only have 10 cards in their hand at the end of any given turn. The player chosen to be the start player is given the speaking stick and 1 bad gray reputation marker. This is worth -1 point at the end of the game for each of these you have. The starting player then chooses a role. Each other player in turn may also choose a role. If they choose the same role as the starting player, they get 1 negative reputation marker. Once everyone has chosen their roles, each player draws an amount of cards based on their role. 2, 3, or 4 cards. Then, beginning with the start player, they take an action based on their role. The elder lets you give totems. When you give a totem, you take a look at the totem symbol and the god symbol, and you place 1 of your markers on that totem for that god. For example, we've got the ugly green god with a blue background totem. We would put 1 marker on the ugly green god's blue background totem. There are 2 spots for a marker on each totem. He may give as many totems as he wants during the turn, as long as there is a spot to place the cube. The carver allows you to use those cubes to carve a totem. For example, if I wanted to carve this totem, I would need 1 cube from each of these gods. So I'd play the totem face up in front of me and remove a cube from each of the gods. The shaman lets you perform rituals. Rituals sort of cut out the middleman. You just discard potlatch cards with the gods shown on one of your totem cards, and you play the totem card face down in front of you. Then each player draws cards again based on their role. 1 card, 2 cards, or 3 cards. Each role will have drawn 5 cards over the course of each turn. Then there's the potlatch. Each player must give up any number of cards. All the cards any one player gives up must have the same symbol down in the corner. Whoever gives up the most cards gets the starting marker for the next turn. All other players get 1 bad reputation. This continues until there have been 8 rounds. At the end of the 8th round, players score points. 1 point for each cube on an ancestor card, 5 points for each totem they have in play. The player who has the most rituals gets 4 points, and each player loses 1 point for each gray marker and 2 points for each black marker they have. And the player with the most points wins. In case the rules sound a bit swirly, let's break it down by role. If you're the elder, you will draw 2 cards, then you will make cubes by discarding this kind of cards. Then you will discard cards for the potlatch with everyone else to try and get the start player marker. Then you will draw 3 cards. If you're the shaman, you'll draw 3 cards. You'll make rituals by discarding potlatch cards. Then you'll discard potlatch cards with everyone else to try and get the start player marker. Then you'll draw 2 cards. If you're the carver, you'll draw 4 cards. You'll make totems with the cubes you've previously generated from this guy. Then you will potlatch with everyone else to try and get the start player marker. Then you'll draw 1 card. This game has some very interesting concepts. The game has a tight set of mechanics. You've got a low number of resources because of your hand size. You're encouraged to give them up to get the start player marker and to avoid negative reputation. And your role selection is even restricted. I do feel that you are making interesting decisions throughout this game, but I also think that if you took a spreadsheet anywhere near this, that optimal numbers would start to arise. For example, optimum amounts of cards to pledge during the potlatch, and how many totems or rituals you should perform in any given game. Also, since only the player with the most rituals is given 4 points at the end, and 4 points is less than even 1 totem would get you, it barely seems worth pursuing, making the role definitely the weakest of the 3. Essentially, I think the game has a very small balance issue, a small scoring issue, and limited replayability because of the optimum value issue. I do think the game is interesting. I think it only has 6 or 7 good plays in it before it hits Nash equilibrium. He's got a new pure card version on his website, and I've read the rules to that, and it seems like it's fixed a lot of the problems, including the ritual scoring problem. And since the cards explain what each of the roles does, you're not constantly referencing the rules sheet.